Welcome to episode 4 of the Cash Flow Joe podcast presented by Pips Path. I'm Pip Stellick, joined by my business partners, Bradley Strack and Steve Hipple. Bradley, how you doing today?
Amazing.
Amazing. That's great. I'm glad that that's a multi-syllable word. And Steve, how are you doing today, my friend?
Real good, thank you.
All the way from Canada, right?
That's right, eh?
Oh my goodness, that's sad. But anyway, we're here to help beginning investors with their first transaction and also seasoned investors how they can get a higher ROI with actually less risk and do even more deals. For more information, visit our website at pipspath.com, where we have tons of free resources for you to get started now. And for the newest investors, a scorecard on how you can get started and where you need to start right now. For today's episode, we're going to be talking about building your network, or power team, as we call it, and really want you to know that real estate is a team sport. Having other people on your team is using a valuable resource many of us forget about, because we all know that saying, time is
money.
Oh, time is not money. Time is everything. See, I think many people miss it because most people are taught, they're basically brainwashed that time is money. And so since time is truly everything, we want to work with other people to help them achieve our own goals. I think and I've said this a million times, but I'm going to say it again. We get brainwashed into that time is everything, or probably time is money. And if you talk to somebody who's on their deathbed, nobody says, I wish I had more money. They say, I wish I had more time. So time is truly everything. So we don't want to confuse OPT with OPM. Other people's money is a great way, and we talked about that on the last episode. But what we really want to figure out, because I know when I sat in here, I'm gonna turn this over to Steve here in just a second, because I know he felt the same way, because I've heard him say this before, is that when you're doing this business of real estate, one of the biggest complaints that we have is, I don't have time to do this. So Steve, when you first started getting educated, when I met you back in 2010, did you have a lot of time in your life at that point?
No, I was busy. Well, everybody's busy. Everybody's busy doing life, doing their own thing. But I was, at the time, running 2 small businesses, and I was working 5, 6, sometimes 7 days a week. And do the math on that, they were 10-hour days. We opened at 8, we closed at 6. Of course, I had to be there a bit before, a bit after. So it was at 50, 60, almost 70 hours a week. So I was definitely busy with work. Definitely had a lot going on.
I remember you saying to me you couldn't even figure out how to find 3 days off to come to the 3-day training that I was teaching.
Yeah, I was in the service business. So to get a Friday off in the service business, followed by a Saturday in the service business, that was tough. But I knew I had to find a way. And we met at a 3-day training. And on Friday, I thought, well, this sounds pretty good. But at the time, none of my family had ever invested in property. None of my family ever made any money in property. I didn't have any. My parents didn't do flips. My parents didn't buy apartment buildings. I didn't even had a crazy uncle who did student rentals. Nobody in my family did property. But I realized that if I don't change, nothing's going to change. And so I knew I had to find a way to start getting new education, to start getting new information from a different source, so I could do other things with my life. So I had to find the time.
So, and Bradley, you were working in a pharmacy when you got educated, right?
Correct.
I'm betting you worked a couple hours a week there.
Yeah, I was managing a store, so that was 55 or so hours, I think, was what I was it was in my salary that I was to be there for 55 hours, and I was young, I was dumb, and they offered me a bunch of money if I would do overtime. So many days I would go to the pharmacy, open my store at 8 a.m. and work until the night shift came in there, but then I'd leave my store and do night shift somewhere else till 10 at night. So I did a lot of 14, 15-hour days back then.
You were young, you could do that,
Exactly.
Right? Yeah, you had nothing better to do.
Nope.
Sure. That Dodge Challenger that you were driving, you didn't get to drive it much because you were working so much, right?
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, you're making good money. Maybe it was better at that age that I was working so much I didn't have as much time to spend that money I was making, but I would find a way on that 1 day off and stretch of 15, 30 days that I would go of just working and grinding it out.
Well, and I remember when I started getting educated in property, I was working 60, 70, 80 hours a week in retail. That's a lot of fun. Steve was in retail, Bradley was in retail, and you just don't have a lot of time, and it's I don't know. I can't say, I don't know. I don't want to make it sound too negative, but it's such a tough business because you spend all your time, effort, and energy trying to please other people.
Well, you just come home from the day and all you want to do is wipe the smile off your face. I remember being in the pharmacy and you're constantly dealing with people who are there because they have a problem. Nobody goes to the pharmacy and go, man, I'm so excited to go see my pharmacist today. You know, you've just come from the doctor, you've got a sick kid with you, your other kid's running around, whatever it may be, but you're dealing with people in a tough or uncomfortable or unfavorable position every single day. So you've got to have that professional demeanor, that understanding empathy. And I'd come home from the pharmacy and just look at my wife and be like, I need a second here. I gotta take some time and get the smile off and just decompress from holding it together all day being in that public service.
Yeah, it's tough. There's no doubt about it. So what we need to think about with property, with real estate, is that we need other people to help us through this transaction of buying a property, selling a property. There's a lot of people involved, and it kind of depends on the strategy that you're doing. And so one of the things that we do is we have people like accountants and attorneys and contractors, appraisers, inspectors. They're all going to get paid per deal that we do. And I think we talked about it last time, and I'm going to let Steve bring this up and get into it. We talked a lot about OPM, other people's money. One form of other people's money is a traditional mortgage broker, a mortgage lender. Steve, could you expand a little bit more on mortgage brokers and that kind of stuff as we get into other people's time and our power team stuff?
Mortgage brokers are such a benefit to a real estate investor. They help you with time, they help you find deals, they help you with specialized knowledge, training, they're licensed to lend money. So networking with mortgage brokers can really be a game changer. And I know some of you guys right now saying mortgage brokers, what do you say to a mortgage broker? What can they do? But, well, think about it. Mortgage brokers, they're in their office probably 5 days a week. Some work from home, some go to the office, whatever it is. So you want to be networking with mortgage brokers. In fact, I'd suggest go network with a lot of mortgage brokers in different areas, because do you think they ever come across somebody who can't make their mortgage payment? Maybe that person needs to sell their house. Maybe that person needs to sell their house fast. If they can't make their mortgage payment, maybe they've been downsized at work. Maybe they've lost their job. Maybe they're sick. Maybe they're going through divorce. Well, if I couldn't make my payments on a property, you got two choices. You either bury your head in the sand and hope it goes away. It's not going away. Or you go talk to a mortgage broker about refinancing. Hey, my life has changed. Can I refinance? I've gotten a number of good deals from mortgage brokers because they're sitting in their office 5-6 days a week, 7-8 hours a day talking to potential clients. And when they get a client that can no longer make the mortgage payment or can't requalify in the loan, whatever it is, they can reach out to an investor like myself, because Pip taught me a long time ago, go talk to mortgage brokers. Go talk to mortgage brokers, network with them. And so what I would do, I would go talk to mortgage brokers and give them a criteria. I'm looking for properties. If anybody has to sell a property quickly, let me know. We can close on a property quickly. Why would somebody want to do that, right? Well, if they're going to lose a property back to the bank or a tax sale, wouldn't it be better to sell it to an investor? Yeah. So this goes back to the joint venture. Well, where do you get the money from that? Well, if you get a joint venture lined up, then you're going to have the money, maybe your own money. Maybe the mortgage broker can help you find the money. But if you never have the conversation with the mortgage broker, you'll never get that lead. You'll never get that phone call. Do you have to take down that mortgage, or do you have to take down that property? No, because you might not have the money. That property might not be for you. Maybe the timelines don't work. Maybe it doesn't fit your criteria. But I'll tell you start networking with mortgage brokers, going to save you time. And they'll send you deals you would have probably never found on your own in the first place. And if they don't send them to you as an investor, they could send them to myself or Pip or Bradley, because when you go talk to mortgage brokers and they've got a problem, like here's somebody that can't make their payments, then, could they send that deal to Bradley or myself or you? Yes, that's what they do, because the mortgage broker, they want to help people. They also want to get a mortgage, because if Bradley buys that property, he gets a mortgage, he's going to get that mortgage from that mortgage broker. So the mortgage broker gets paid for selling, or Bradley getting that new mortgage to buy that property. So there's lots of benefit to the mortgage broker, and there's lots of examples with that. So mortgage brokers are key to the business. You can find good deals. On another note, we like talking about lease options. We offer lease options training. I've done a lot of lease options. Lease options is one of my favorite strategies in any market. And you can talk to mortgage brokers saying, do you ever have any people that don't quite qualify for a mortgage? And you talk to mortgage brokers, you talk to realtors, ask them, just ask any random mortgage broker, do you ever have anybody come into your office that, good person, they've got a good income, they've got a bit of money saved, whatever their credit is, do you ever anybody that wants to become a homeowner but they don't quite qualify? In my experience, 99.9% of mortgage brokers say, yeah, we get them all the time. They don't quite qualify. Well, what do you do with those people? So mortgage brokers have access to people who want to be homeowners, but not quite there. So can we put those people into maybe a lease option or a rent home program? A lot we can. We can't put them all into because some don't qualify for a program. But again, mortgage brokers talk to these people on a very regular basis. So if you can network with a mortgage broker, start putting leads out there for your lease option business. Start talking to mortgage brokers about people no longer qualify for the property or they need to sell fast. You start putting these leads out to mortgage brokers, then suddenly you start getting these phone calls. And now mortgage brokers now calling you, hey Bradley, I've got this lead in a deal. Is this a deal for you? Here's a seller's information, or here's a potential lease option candidate. Here's a new lead for you that you never would have got otherwise. So lots of opportunity with mortgage brokers.
Well, I think what's interesting about that, we were just out in Denver, and we were doing a 3-day class out there in Denver, and it was interesting because I have students, we talk about getting power team members, and they think they've got to find the perfect mortgage broker, the perfect whatever. And you just said, you can start calling realtors anywhere. I'll never forget when I first went, and we do mentoring with students where we actually come out and work with you right in your market, and we go do meetings with you. And we'll talk about community banks and stuff in future episodes and things like that. But one of the things I remember I told Steve before I came up and mentored him, I said, and yeah, I went to Sarnia, Ontario, of all places, to mentor Steve. And I drove through a snowstorm.
Well, you came in January. What's up with that?
Well, that's when you scheduled
First
it.
mistake.
I have no idea. I think that's when you were less busy at your small business, is my guess, is why you were able to work that in.
I think you said something, you offended me, so I said, that's it. Come in January, and you did.
Nothing like going to Canada in January. So
It was a big storm.
I told Steve one of the things that we need to do, and I'll change the names or I won't even use names because I don't want to offend anybody. But when we were getting ready to get the mentorship going, I said, Steve, before I get there, I want you to start setting some meetings with mortgage brokers. And he's like, well, who do I say? I said, doesn't matter. Just got to go out and start talking to people. We talked about that on the last episode, is TTP. And the first mortgage broker, you got to remember, I'm an American. I'm not Canadian. So I don't know how these Canadians do things in a certain way. And this was actually, it was only my second mentorship in Canada. My third mentorship in Canada. And so it was my
third. Wow. You were working at a level of at least your sixth mentorship.
I
didn't know it
think
was
maybe
only
even
your
seventh.
third.
Yeah, it was my
Wow.
third Canadian mentorship. And so I'm still trying to find out if they have things like Pizza Hut and KFC in Canada.
important things.
Yeah, I don't know. They have different places. They don't even have some of the restaurants that we have. I mean, they have different. Well, I won't even get into that. And so I told Steve, you need to start calling some mortgage brokers, set up appointments. And so the first day I got there, I go, do we have any appointments set? Yeah, we got an appointment. Here's the time. And so we go and meet with this mortgage broker. You and I had never met her before. And I thought it was interesting because, first of all, and like I said, I'm not going to say names, but she had a rather rough voice and a rather rough vocabulary, if I remember right.
She cussed, as you would say.
Yeah.
I would say she swore. Pip would say she cussed.
Well, you say potato, I say potato. We're from different parts of the world. And I'm American and you're not. That's the difference. Yeah, that's the difference. We're cool and you're not. Mm-hmm. And so
she was dropping F-bombs.
Literally within the second
first
seconds.
minute, yeah.
I'm like, you meet somebody, you say hello in a professional setting and they're dropping F-bombs. You're like, well, now that's a bit odd. And she had one of those voices. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Monsters, Inc., but and I don't even know what the character's name is, but she's like, Wasikowski, you forgot your paperwork. And that's exactly how she talked.
Like she smoked 20 cigarettes an hour?
At least. And so either way, long story short, and don't you like when somebody says long story short, this is going to take a while. Steve, how many deals did you end up doing with that mortgage broker? And how soon after we met with her did you start doing deals with her?
I did multiple deals from this one source. And the first deal came less than 2 months after we sat in the office. It came right away. I got a phone call. And basically she said, I've got exactly what you're looking for. And I said, well, that's great. And she said, I've got a young fella. He can't pay his mortgage anymore. He's about to lose his home. He's going to lose a home in 9 days. She said, I've got his mortgage information. I've got his monthly payment. I've got a value on the property. I've got all his income, his expenses, whatever you need in the property. I've got all the information. So I'm like, wow, this is a dream come true. And here's his phone number. Call him up. I think you have a good deal. So when a mortgage broker calls you up, gives me all the information, and she also said he's going to lose a home in 9 days. Can you close on a property in 9 days? I had no idea. This was my second deal. I'd done a deal before that, but I had lots of time. The second, I said no idea, but I had a lead that nobody else had, and I closed on that property 9 days later.
Well, and I know that's a long story, and Caleb's story is a long one. I want you to share it on a future episode. I don't know if we're going to have time on this one today, but it's a great story about helping people. And what we do at The Path is we help people. We help students through mentorship, but we help those students help other people. And Bradley said this before on one of the last podcasts, is you help enough other people get what they want, you'll get everything that you want. And I think that's such a cool part of it is we've got to go out there and plant seeds. And if you don't go out there and start talking to people and letting them know what you do, then it's going to be very hard. Now, what's one of the problems is you don't even know what to say to people. And they ask you questions. You may know an answer to one or two things, but eventually they're going to start asking you questions and you're not going to know the answer. So one of the things we talk so much about with what we do at Pip's Path is about support. So when somebody doesn't know the answer to something, well, my business partner takes care of that. Let me talk to my business partner and get back with you. And then you're going to contact us with those questions. And that's how we make sure that we teach you guys how to do this at a much higher level. So that's what this is all about. I'll never forget, and Steve just said it, he and I talked to this mortgage broker, and within 2 months we were doing deals. I had another scenario. I was mentoring other students in Canada, and we were in Ottawa, the other side of Ontario, I believe. And when we were in Ottawa, I was working with this mortgage broker, and I'm talking to him on the phone, and he says, well, you don't have any clients. I never have clients that don't qualify. I qualify everybody. I'm the mortgage genius, is what he called himself. And
I think I met that guy.
I should drop his name because anyway, but long story short, he said he'd qualified everybody. And we said, fine, no problem. If you ever have anybody that can't quite qualify, let us know. He said, that'll never happen. 6 months later, he calls my students and said, oh, by the way, I've got somebody. And so it's just a matter of he needed help with something. He had a client that wasn't qualifying, so he doesn't get paid unless the client qualifies. So if I can help somebody get paid, then I am providing value to anybody and everybody that I come in touch with. I want to help people get paid, and that's what we do as trainers of real estate investors. We help you get paid, and that's really what it comes down to. So Bradley, you're like a whole different world when we get into Airbnb because, yeah, we need mortgage brokers. We need those kinds of people, but not like a lease option where it's going to be that same relationship. When you go into your Airbnb short-term rental business, who's the most important person on your team?
Well, I mean, in talking about other people's time and how that is set up, it always comes down to, in a short-term rental scenario, at least for us it did, was having that perfect cleaner, because that cleaner is going to be the eyes and ears on my property. So for my wife and I, again, and this goes back to kind of that foundational, well, where do I start to invest? Well, where my wife and I live right on the coast in Delray Beach in Southeast Florida, properties really didn't get great cash flow there, even as a short-term rental with more income. So we wanted to invest, but it made more sense to invest in properties that were not in our local area where we lived. So if I've got an Airbnb 3 hours from our house, I can't be there changing sheets and towels or helping guests with problems if something goes wrong because it's too far away. And frankly, I didn't want to buy another job. I didn't want real estate to become this 50, 60, 70-hour week beast like pharmacy was for me at the time. So having these cleaners that would take care of my property, and I always would say they're the last ones there before somebody shows up, and they're the first ones there after my guest leaves. So they can do video walkthroughs, they can take inventory, they can do all these things. And as long as I had a system for that cleaner to follow, I could manage and run that business, and things would be done the way I wanted them to be done without me having to be there. So for my wife and I, finding that cleaner and knowing what questions to ask, how to find somebody who's willing to do the things that we wanted was more important many times than finding the actual property. Because if I knew I had the right person to take care of it, I could be profitable on any property that we looked at. So on the further concept of that was we also took very good care of those good cleaners that we found, because if I'm making great cash flow on a short-term rental, if I need to send them over there to change a light bulb, or I need to send them over there with some extra towels because the guests asked for it, I'm going to give them $100 just for going over there. And it may take 20 minutes out of their day, 30 minutes out of their day. But if it's unscheduled, I want to make sure that I take good care of them, because that way when their phone rings, they're going to pick it up every time they see Bradley calling, because they know that they're going to get well taken care of if I have a task for them to do or a job that needs taken care of.
Now, I think that comes down to the old adage of don't be cheap. You're going to
100%.
you're going to get exactly what you pay for in life. Is don't be cheap. Which, you know, we have tons of power team members that we utilize, and we'll talk more about those as we go into future episodes. But one of the people that you need in the real estate world is a realtor. A lot of times I think people think, oh, we don't need realtors, we're going to do all the work ourselves. Or what I think a lot of times is, and Sam, our other business partner, would talk about this, is we think we need to go out and become a realtor, get our real estate license. We think maybe we need to do all the work on a property. And if you're trying to figure out how to do all that work, you're doing it wrong. You need to find out who can do that for you. And so the who of it is way more important than the how to. And so with realtors, here's the coolest part about realtors. Steve, you guys had a lot of employees when you had your small business. How many employees did you have?
30, around 35.
So that's quite a few employees for a small business. Did they ever, any of them volunteer to work for free?
No.
That never happened?
Never.
Shocking. How is that the case? And so when you were working at Walgreens, Bradley, I know you had people that you didn't own the store, but you managed it. So how many people did you have to manage at an average Walgreens location? I don't even know how many there is at an average Walgreens location. Is there 20 people that have to run one of those? Is it more?
I would say, because so they kind of separate things out between the pharmacy and the front end of the store. So with the front end of the store included, there were probably 50 people, but in the pharmacy we would have usually about 15 or so between
so
the
it's even
different
more.
pharmacists and technicians that would be on, or interns that we had.
Did any of those people volunteer to work for free?
Oh my gosh, do you know how many meals I bought to get people to come in and work? How many gift cards I gave out for people to come in and work? I mean, even people getting paid good salaries, because a pharmacy technician could make a pretty significant wage, and we would teach a technician how to get the license. So we would take people from the front end of the store who were making $7.50, $8 an hour, come back, learn how to do what we do, and you could be already making 12, 13, 15 bucks an hour. So we had people that wanted to do it, but then when you call them and say, hey, I got an extra shift for you. Oh, well, because it's Saturday, it's Friday night. People get busy. They don't want to do it. So yeah, it was a constant struggle whether I was there or not.
I know people are listening going, what is he talking about, working for free? Well, if I need to find properties, I can call up a realtor, and I could call up a realtor in any city right now. Don't even need to know that person. I call up a realtor. I could just go online, and you can find whoever you want, because they're all listed right on Google. And if you're a young single guy, and I'm sure we've got some young single guys listening to the podcast. If I could go back and be a young single guy, now I'm a 55-year-old married guy with 2 daughters, so I couldn't do this. But if
You're only 55?
Yeah, shut up.
I thought you were much older.
I know, I look a little bit older, but not a lot. Anyway, so if I was 25 years old, young single guy, and I know we're talking to a lot of young single guys out there on this podcast. If I was a young single guy, I would go on and let's say you want to go invest, you name the city. So let's say you want to invest in, like we just got back from Denver. Let's go with Denver. So we just got back from Denver. If I was a young single guy doing this all over again, I can't do it now and I wouldn't do it now. But I am giving you a hint, a tip, a trick, whatever you want to call it. If I was a young single guy and I wanted to start looking at some properties in Denver, Colorado, I would type in Denver area realtors. And guess what's going to come up, Steve, is pictures of all the realtors. And so I'm assuming that a lot of people go online to do online dating nowadays. Do they look at pictures before they do the online dating? My guess is yes. I've never done online dating. Steve, you probably haven't. Have you done online dating ever?
I never have.
Me neither. I don't know.
They didn't have online dating when you were dating.
They didn't even have online.
They didn't even have online.
They didn't even have the line when
No.
I was dating. But the point is, people are used to going online and looking at pictures. And if I was a young single guy, I would find the prettiest girl who's a realtor. I know that sounds terrible, but I'm just being real with you because you're going to end up spending time with this person. Now, I am going to give you a quick tip or trick. When you see the picture of that realtor, realize that when you meet them in person, there is a good shot that they're going to be 20 years older than the picture that you saw.
And in South Florida, it's 40 years.
Just saying. I don't know why realtors tend to do this, but they do. Is their pictures seem to be 20 or 30 years older than the one when I meet them. I've had that, not with just ladies. I'm not going to say that's a ladies thing. I had a realtor that we sold a house right here in where we live now, and we sold one of our houses with this guy. And when I saw his picture, he had completely jet black hair. His hair, if you can see Bradley, his hair is completely dark.
Much darker than my partner's.
Exactly. But when I met him, his hair was completely white. Even though his picture was completely black hair, I thought, well, this doesn't even look like the same guy. Either way, all I'm getting at is you can go online, you can find whoever you want to be your realtor. You call them up and you say to that realtor, hey, Bob, hey, Joan, or whatever her name is, or his name. Say, I'm looking for multifamily properties in the Denver area. Can you find me some duplex, threeplex, or fourplex properties? Every one of them, without fail, is going to say, yeah, I would love to do that for you. I'll start sending you properties immediately. They're going to do that. You may ask a different realtor. You can call, and you can do this and practice this anywhere you want. Call a realtor in another town and say, hey, I'm looking for fixer-upper properties. I need properties that need work. Can you send me some of those? They're going to start sending them to you immediately. What are they going to charge you to do this? They're going to charge you nothing. They're going to start working for you for free. That's a cool word to say. Free.
I like free.
And so they do it for free because they know that you might buy something in the future. Let's say they hope you might buy something in the future. And that is what they do. Now, here's an even cooler part of it. Steve, when you buy a property and there's a listing agent and you have a buyer's agent, who generally pays the realtors? The buyer or the seller?
The seller.
So if the seller pays him and I'm the buyer, how much do I have to pay the realtor?
0.
I think you can all afford 0. See, this is where we get in this mentality, and I've already said it multiple times, don't be cheap. Don't be cheap. But in this instance, you can have your realtor work for you for free. No other business do I know that the most important person you're going to put on your team, they'll do it for free. They'll work for you and they'll find deals without charging you a dime. And then when the property closes, you're not even the one that pays them. What's the international sound of money?
I believe it's cha-ching.
That's the international sound of money right there is cha-ching. I don't know any other businesses that are like this. Realtors will do this and they will use their time. We talk about OPT. They'll use their time. And guess what they also have is they have some insider information. Steve, you do some trading on this in the stock market, don't you?
Mm-hmm. A little investing, a little trading, yep.
A little investing. Is it illegal to do insider trading in the stock market?
I don't know Martha Stewart very well, but I understand if she was here, I think she would say yes. It's not even frowned upon. It's actually illegal, yes.
She even did jail time for that, didn't she?
She did.
Yeah. And so here's the cool part about it. In real estate, it's completely legal to have insider information. And a realtor can get you insider information. Nothing that's illegal. They just maybe know why the seller's selling. They may know how quickly the seller needs to sell. They may know things about the neighborhood that you don't. Like these properties in this area, and when you rehab them, you don't need to put in granite countertops because you've over-rehabbed at that point. So they have insider information that can actually put more money in Hip Pocket National Bank. And we all love Hip Pocket National Bank. That would be another cha-ching.
Favorite bank.
That's my favorite bank, definitely. And so what we want to think about here is when we are doing this business, we want to create win-win relationships. Steve, when you bought that property, did the mortgage broker get paid?
Yes.
Duh, of course the mortgage broker got paid. Bradley, when you were paying when you were hiring your cleaners, did you pay them a fair salary and on top of that more than you needed to sometimes?
Always.
You will always get what you pay for. And so we want to create win-win scenarios. My buddy Sam likes to say, share the wealth. If you share the wealth, the more you share with other people, the more you're going to get paid. In fact, I will even, and I'm not even going to talk about it on this episode because it's too big of a topic, I will increase the commission for my realtors. I will pay them more than the going rate of commission. Why would I do that? Because I'm going to make more money at the end of the day. See, I think we sometimes miss that we are going to, if we pay money, it's going to cost us money. Well, if you invest money, you expect to get more back than what you invested. And so investing in a good realtor, investing in a good cleaning person, investing in a good mortgage broker by just paying them what they're due, and then sometimes even a little bit more, that's going to come back to you exponentially. So we talk a lot about building that team, and we're going to go deeper into these topics, but just understand that we are putting together a team of people. We call it our power team. Bradley, anything you want to add on our power team stuff that we talked about today?
Well, I think it just goes back to the fact that if you want to think about this from that rich dad mindset, that right side of the quadrant, as we call it, it comes down to the fact that you don't want to do it all yourself. So understanding that, and you said it earlier, is who can I get to do this for me, not how do I do it? Why do we use realtors? Because they sell properties statistically faster and for more money than if we try and sell it ourselves. And as somebody who is measuring things from that wealthy mindset, now my time outweighs the value of me learning how to do those tasks or those jobs myself. So other people's time is truly the key to what we really want, I feel, as investors, is to buy our time back.
Well, I think too many people are trying to save money and they end up spending more time to do so. Bradley mentioned something there, and I want to make sure y'all hear this. He said cash flow quadrant. We're going to do a whole episode on Robert Kiyosaki's second book, The Cash Flow Quadrant, because it's that big of a topic. We told you on one of the first episodes, read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's definitely a must. If you get through that one, I would listen to or read Cash Flow Quadrant. That's the second book in the series. And it really talks about how we put together a team, how we do anything through the Cash Flow Quadrant. We're going to be spending more time on that. Steve, anything you want to add about Power Team?
Yeah, with what we're talking about here with other people's time, it kind of leverages on or piggybacks on what Bradley was talking about with leverage. If you're trying to do everything yourself, if you're like, you got to ask yourself, who's the leverage? If you're doing all the work yourself, if you're working 40, 50, 60 hours a week to make money and you're cutting your own grass and you're trying to find your own deals and you find this deal, then you're planning to paint it yourself or do the flooring yourself to save a few bucks, you're the leverage. You are all the leverage. So we want to leverage, you want to leverage, have other people be the leverage, and you want to buy your time back. You want to get to the point where you're running your business, controlling your business. Do you still have to work 40, 50 hours a week to pay your bills? That's quite possible. And if you do, keep doing that because you got to put food on the table in the meantime. But, use realtors, talk to mortgage brokers, hire contractors, hire property managers. These are all things that put money in your pocket and give you time, because if you're trying to collect rent, if you're trying to be a contractor, number one, are those your skills? Like, the three of us, we're like, hey, Bradley's a bit handy. Actually, he's got some handy skills. He does. Lucky for him, I'm not handy. Pip is definitely not handy, but I don't want to be handy.
I do have hands, but I'm not handy.
But as far as like fixing stuff, repairing stuff, it's not our skills. Why do we have other people do that? Hire a contractor, hire a property manager. We talked about realtors. They will all save you money, buy your time back. So there's lots of things with other people's time, and it goes back to Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Just leverage your time. Just if you gotta, in every scenario, ask yourself, what's the leverage? And when I look back 13, 14 years ago, I was a leverage in so many scenarios. I had to get myself out of that situation.
Well, I think you look like a good lever, Steve. I don't know about that, but
strong.
Strong lever is what he is. So our goal is to continue to teach you these things on a regular basis, and we're going to keep taking this even further. But really, the heaviest thing you should lift as a real estate investor, and if you're watching this, you're going to see it. If not, I'll tell you, I'm holding up my cell phone. That's the heaviest thing you should lift in any real estate transaction. You shouldn't be doing any of the other work and trying to save money, because it's going to end up costing you money. So on next week's episode, we're going to continue our discussion about networking and how having a community of like-minded people helped us to build our businesses. We'll talk about what helped us be successful and how we provide for anyone who is looking for that to get involved or get on the path, as we call it. So before we get out of here, just want to say again, if you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you choose. For more information about what we do, go to our website at pipspath.com. Follow us on social media, Pips Path the Property and Cash Flow Joe Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Leave us a comment, give us a follow, and we will see you on the path.